business.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Riscott. Can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Rasky?
Here.
Mrs. Kosky?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanez?
Here.
Mrs. Yarko?
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Kosky.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to begin by highlighting some of the noteworthy events we have ongoing throughout Black History Month. And first, our African American Coalition, who all of you know is hard at work on so many different initiatives, they are coordinating a display that will be in our library lobby, highlighting various black leaders from across the area. In addition, the halo has been lit red, yellow, and green in honor of Black History Month. And the film Till will be played for the library's morning movie on February 8th at 10 a.m., so that's coming up. And the library will also play the children's movie Aquila and the Bee on Saturday, February 24th. And there's all sorts of adult, youth, and teen book displays available at the library too. So we have all sorts of Black history programming going on throughout the month of February. So please take note. And Mayor, I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about our new refuse collection program. As you know, we have a very significant programmatic change in our refuse collection program, which now will include universal curbside recycling. So every household in Sterling Heights, pursuant to our award-winning sustainability plan, will be able to set out their recycling material at curbside every week. In addition, every household is going to get a recycling cart. So that's going to help beautify the community in that we won't have garbage bags sitting out all over. It will decrease litter. It also streamlines refuse collection because now we can have automated trucks that pick up all the recycling or all the refuse containers, similar to the truck that now picks up the recycling for those who have recycling currently. So those are two significant changes, and I want to walk through some of the timeline here because this is going to be unrolling here pretty quick, and that is in February, every household's going to receive a postcard delivered to all 40,000 addresses, and it'll have a QR code on it. You'll be able to scan it or go directly to the landing page to learn much more about this new and exciting program, best in class program. We've been trying to get to this level for a number of years now, and we're really glad to join so many other communities that are doing it. But we're also have some unique touches to our program as well. And in March, a detailed letter will be mailed to all of our residents from our Department of Public Works Director, providing more details as we ramp up for the unveiling or the rollout. And then in April, refuse and recycling carts will be delivered to all the households along with information on each cart in terms of what you can recycle and so on. It's very similar to the current recycling program in that respect. And so there'll be other detailed information over the next couple of months. And so I mentioned the QR code. So this is a sample of the postcard that everyone's going to be getting. So for those who don't want to scan the QR code, you can just type in the website and you'll be able to go to our landing page which is soon going to be activated with up-to-date information, a very detailed Q&A, so you can learn anything you want about the program. And I think this in and of itself will be very helpful for residents. But look forward to this coming. We're also going to have brown carts available. The refuse cart and the recycling cart, there is no charge for that cart, those carts. It's part of the program. So residents do not have to pay separately for the refuse cart or recycling. We will also make available to residents, for those who want it, a brown yard waste cart if residents so choose. However, that would have to be purchased. It's a reasonable price. But in some cases, those who set out a lot of bags, it would reduce your bag cost. So there'd be a reasonable payback period there. But that is a more of a unique option that we're going to have available to residents too. We also have a feature for seniors and others, mobility limited, that may not be able to roll these carts down. They may have some challenge, although it hasn't necessarily proven to be a problem in other communities. But we wanted to make sure that we could accommodate those that may have a mobility limitation. And so there's a value-added service to this where the collectors will actually come up to the house and help those residents bring those carts down to the curb for a reasonable price. So that's a value add that I mentioned. That's a little more unique compared to other cities throughout the metro area. So wanted to highlight this because it is a really big change that is forthcoming. The current, for the 10,000 or so that currently participate in the subscription-based recycling curbside program, those carts will be picked up on the last collection date for that program. So that's all spelled out in the letter and the landing page that you're all going to get. So look forward to that. And Mayor, last week we had a very comprehensive strategic planning process where we unveiled a lot of new and exciting projects that'll be coming up over the ensuing years. We also launched our Visioning 2040 plan. That'll be back in front of City Council at one of your March meetings for formal consideration. But we also mentioned last week that we have our master plan update forthcoming. And our city planner, Dr. Jake Parcell, is with us this evening to give a little preview of all that's going to be entailed with the master plan update and all the public engagement that's going to be going on over the next year. So, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce our city planner, Dr. Parcell.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Kaszubski. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to talk about our master land use plan kickoff. As many of you know, the Master Land Use Plan is the visioning document that guides most of our recommendations and our development suggestions that we bring forth in front of City Council. Last year, during the budgeting process, we asked for, and we have begun the process to complete a comprehensive rewrite of our entire existing Master Land Use Plan. This is very exciting to me for many reasons, most of which is that since 2017, when the last one was written, we have a new sustainability plan in 2021. We have the North Van Dyke Avenue area, sub-area plan in 2021. We've made it through a pandemic. We've seen shifting land use patterns. And ultimately, we have more problems coming out of this that we are tasked with trying to solve that we need guidance on. So with this full rewrite, we're going to have a very innovative and exciting plan we're going to be working on throughout the next year. And with this, I'm excited to share with you some of the things that will make the Sterling Heights plan not just helpful for the community, but innovative and really set us apart from all the surrounding communities and what we have on file already. So with this, in our special chapters for our upcoming master land use plan that you'll be able to read, be able to be a part of helping us with, we have a climate action plan. For the first time, city will have a climate action plan outlining specific measures and policies and recommendations directly related to greenhouse gas emissions that will work to make the city resilient and promote sustainable practices, really bringing the city's sustainability plan to life further. We also will have a comprehensive housing assessment. We mention here quite frequently that housing is a problem that not only in this city, but in the state and in the country is difficult to tackle. So we will be pairing a market analysis and housing assessment that is incredibly data rich and grassroots oriented in terms of the recommendations it makes for helping the city ensure our housing goals are aligned with what the community wants and more importantly, what the community can withstand in light of future growth. This will include housing preference, affordability, accessibility, and the preservation of the city's characters in collaboration with where we want the city to go in our future goals. And also to ensure that all of the diverse members of the community that are in typically hard to reach groups are able and have equitable access to participate. We've budgeted for full translating services that will provide interpretation at events, translate the forms, the surveys, and even translate full chapters of our master land use plan so they can be distributed broadly following its adoption. But what I'm most excited about talking tonight is community participation. This is why I got into, urban planning. It's not the land use, it's not the development coming up, although I love it. I love working with the people to see what the city wants to do. And this is going to be a long year full of educational opportunities to increase education and awareness of what you do as council members, what we do in the Office of Planning, and what our business community, citizens, and developers can expect to see in the city in the coming years. So as we create a plan that is adaptable, that can meet the changing needs of our community for the coming decades, we also want one that helps educate people throughout the process and provides a rich assortment of options to do so. So starting tomorrow with the launch of our master plan website that we will be sharing on the city's social media, we'll have up for the duration of the website. Here's some of the tools that you can expect to see coming throughout the year that we'll be working on. From February to May, we have an online simulator, a GIS tool that allows people to pinpoint areas of focus and concern and leave feedback and comments on our website. We'll be working on student involvement through the city's youth advisory group, working with local schools and local youth, potentially even holding events for murals and art creation that we can put into our plan as part of the visuals that you'll be able to read as you read the land use plan. We have a Citizens Academy launching, which is launching this month, an education and training pack that we'll have available at City Hall and at other public places in the city, where people can receive their own Master 101 introductory class and guide them on the process. Furthermore, we have meeting toolkits that are available for community leaders. This could be faith groups, nonprofits, schools, or more, that will be targeted focus groups that can create their own small kind of discussion within their focus group or their neighborhood community, and then bring their findings and their data back to us to incorporate into the master plan. We have a new intern in the Office of Planning, Miss Ava Miller, who in her first week here has already identified 75 organizations that we've started to reach out to ensure that people throughout the city are going to be involved. We also have opportunities, if applicable, for community workshops and focus groups so that we can make sure that people who are traditionally hard to find, people without internet, or people who are not normally engaged or surveyed in the planning process can be brought in every step of the way. And then finally, we'll have a short public online survey that will be on our website used to gather input from the community as well. The online website that we're going to be launching is going to be very comprehensive. It'll have a forum on it where people can converse, say their favorite things about the city, interact with one another, and really work on bringing the city together as we move forward on our land use plan. And for everyone at home, City Council, our boards and commissions, and anyone from staff who's interested, here's the proposed timeline of engagement that we'll be setting forth for the next year. Next week, it is Valentine's Day, so mark that off with your special someone. Following our public hearings, we'll be having our Master Plan 101 at the Planning Commission meeting to really kick the event off with our Planning Commission. Planning Commission will be holding supplemental meetings every 2 months throughout the year. Each one is an educational module that will have a special focus. From there, we generate discussion. We work with people in the community, or all of our boards and commissions, to open up and discuss these topics that you'll see in different chapters of the master plan, and then bring them together, to build our recommendations that you'll see. So these are the fourth Wednesday of every month. They'll be held at the Community Center. April 24th will be Module 1, Housing, and June 26th will be Module 2, Economy and Workforce. In the middle, we're going to have a public workshop, which is an open house, where I gladly invite all members of council, along with my Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, to show up, where they'll be able to meet with staff, meet with their elected officials and their volunteer commissioners, and kind of go through and look at some of our goals that will focus on future land use and zoning. In July, we'll be having our second public workshop focusing on sustainability, and then a final 2 supplemental planning commission meetings focusing on priority nodes and corridors, something that we've been discussing with council a great deal moving forward, and then also transportation, infrastructure, and natural systems. Finally, in December of this year, it says TBD because the fourth Wednesday is Christmas, and I don't want my commissioners to have to come in on Christmas, will be the final plan review of our ultimate plan. So we really have a very deep grassroots kind of plan here moving forward this year. We're working tirelessly to engage all groups of the community, making it equitable and accessible. And I think that we're going to come up with a process and a result that we're very, very excited for. Some exciting news before I pass it over to our consultants. We were notified today that we received a full $50,000 from the MISHDA Housing Income or Housing Readiness Inventory Grant. So in addition to that, with matching funds from MEDC, our master land use plan now through grant funding acquired by the Office of Planning is about 46% paid for through grant funding. So we're over halfway to meeting our budget goal through grant funding from the state, which we're very appreciative to. But it's also providing us the opportunity to pull in everything I said that is very innovative and exciting about this plan. And at this time next year, I look forward to, adopting our final product with you all and having something that we're very excited about moving the city forward. And with that, I'd like to thank the members of my planning commission who are here tonight. I'm very excited to work with you in the next year. And I'd like to introduce our consultants. We'll be working with Giffords Webster to say a few words.
Good evening. I'm Jill Boehm. I'm a partner at Giffords Webster, and have been a planner for a little over 25 years. Have been a consultant for 16 years, and I lead our planning team, and we are absolutely delighted to be working with the City of Sterling Heights, with your planning staff, and with your community on this master plan project. As we were hearing, it's got a lot of community engagement. It's very strong in that. And also a big component of helping the community understand what a master plan is and even what it isn't. But thinking about just on a daily basis, how does our community's buildings and sidewalks and streets shape the way that we move about the city in our daily activities, how we go to work, how we go to school, how we shop. And how we can do that maybe a little bit better. I will let Andy introduce himself as well.
Yep. So good evening, council. Nice to see you again. I've been around the city of Sterling Heights with the former planning contract we had in assisting the city with the normal everyday planning services. I was very blessed to kind of jump into that role as my first consultant experience. I had worked in communities, in two other communities, City of Ypsilanti and City of Flint, in my prior experience. And working here in the City of Sterling Heights was a great experience. It's a very busy place, very energetic place, great staff. Dr. Parcell and Ryan and Alexis, Sean, Ava now. Enjoy working with the staff, very much so. So. Very excited to be working on this master plan update with the city.
And then I'll just note too, we've got Cole Forpinski with us tonight. He's a new staff planner that started with us. And we have a fleet of other planners and engineers and GIS folks back at the office that will be part of our team as well. I know we wanted to kind of keep it short and sweet, but we're happy to answer any questions that you might have or any comments.
Council, anyone have any questions, comments? Short and sweet it is.
All right, then.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate it.
We look forward to working with you.
Look forward to having you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to move on to the second best part of my report this evening, after the master plan, of course. And
The end?
Dr. Parcell, were you finished up? I think you were, right?
No, that's all I have.
Okay.
No, I invite you all to come to our events throughout the year, and I look forward to seeing you there.
So, Mayor, this is super exciting. I mentioned this a few meetings ago. And last week we heard from Peter Kageyama, who wrote the book For the Love of Cities. And he talked about really unique things that cities should be doing to create focal points and create attachments with residents and businesses alike, and to create, become a destination place for others. So I want to highlight this very unique use in our city. And let me start by just showing the following video. I think I have to click on this.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun today here in Sterling Heights at Smash Paddle. We've got Henrik Zetterberg, the founder. He's brought this from Sweden to North America. And Hank, you tell me this is the biggest paddle site in the country?
Yeah, the biggest indoor facility in the country right now, yeah.
And how big is this sport worldwide? How big is it in Sweden?
In Sweden, it's huge. So everyone is playing it. You got these facilities all over the place. So, we're really glad to have a chance to bring it over here.
So give us a quick run through the rules and how it's scored.
Well, it's you count it as tennis, so that's way simpler than pickleball. And you see we're in a cage, so the ball has to bounce on the ground before. So if we say that we are on that side, playing towards here, if you hit it and hit the glass, it's out. But if it hits the ground first, it's a live ball, and then you can play it back.
It's a sport best played in pairs, so who do we have joining us today?
Well, today we have Danny de Kaiser.
All right.
Yeah. And the head pro here at the facility, Robert Kellberg. Yeah.
So what we're going to do here is Bally is going to win one way or the other, but will it be me or will it be Team de Kaiser taking home the bragging rights today?
Yeah.
Let's get at her and find out.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah. Coming off the glass. Nice. Sit. Oh, yeah.
Baby.
Nice. Yeah. We did it, Cam. We did it. Good job.
The sweet taste of victory.
Poor Danny.
So this is right here in Sterling Heights, and you can go to, I'll give you the exact address here. It's Sterling Drive South, so 6635 Sterling Drive South. And this is a really neat place. You saw in the video, but what I really like, look at the lounge. While you're waiting for, I think this will come back up, while you're waiting for a court, you can sit in this incredibly comfortable lounge and watch TV, relax, do whatever you need to do. When a court frees up, then you can get your exercise. Our city attorney is an expert pickleball player, and I know he's going to be in this facility frequently. So, moving on, the next item is not quite as exciting, but our city offices are going to be closed on Monday, February 19th for President's Day. So please take note of that. And it will be an in-service training day for our employees, however, the buildings will be closed. And lastly, at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, I'm requesting that the City Council convene a closed session pursuant to Sections 8C and 8D of the Open Meetings Act to discuss strategy in connection with collective bargaining. And that is it. Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. The next item on our agenda tonight is an ordinance introduction, and this is to consider introduction of a map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conditionally rezone property situated on the south side of 15 Mile Road, west of Mound Road in section 32 from R60 one-family residential to O1 Business and Professional Office District, case number PZ 23-0010. We have a presentation from our city planner, Dr. Jake Parcell. Dr. Parcell.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszubski. So this evening we have rezoning from single family to an office use. Applicant is requesting to do this as a conditional rezoning. It will be for the intent of constructing a professional office building and a second medical office building located south side of 15 Mile, west of Mound. This was, for reference, previously approved to be rezoned as an office by City Council in 2008. Happened right before economic conditions made development of this infeasible, reverted back to the underlying R60 zoning. So we have in front of you a new conditional rezoning agreement to be introduced this evening. Here is the zoning map. You'll notice it is surrounded on the west by R60. And technically on the east, although this is fire station number 3, so it's a non-residential use there. There's office across the street. You'll see the sliver there on 15 Mile, and to the east across from Davison Street. Master land use plan calls for this as suburban residential. It is a relatively large vacant residential property. We'll discuss some of the challenges with development there in a moment. We do not believe that the rezoning is in line with what the master plan indicates here, although it's reasonable to assume that based on past approvals and with the surrounding land use pattern is developed with the office extending here into the fire station, that an office would be compatible with the surrounding uses. Here's an aerial image. Again, lightly treed, relatively large lot. This is north, this is south, so you're oriented, looking downward at it. Google Street View shows here, again, the vacant lot. So the applicant's proposing here to show an R60 to O1 conditional rezoning. There will be two 6,048 square foot office buildings located to the east side of the property, closest to Fire Station 3, to provide as much buffer room as possible towards the fire station. Applicant has one requested modification from the zoning ordinance here. It's reducing the side yard setback from 35 feet to 20 feet is required when abutting a residential district. This is on the east side, so this is actually shortening the setback towards the fire station, making a longer setback on the west side where the residences are. They have one extra parking space from what's required, so no issues there. There will be a detention pond built to the Office of Engineering Standards located in the front yard. An analysis of the rezoning here shows that this is a suburban residential zone. However, it's located near two heavily office designated areas. It's located at the intersection of two of the city's busiest intersections. It's not anticipated that these offices, one general office and one strictly medical office, would create more vehicular traffic to the area in an adverse way. However, the difficulty I mentioned with development here in any way in single family is that with the city ordinance, it would be very difficult to split the parcel without a private road. If you split it into two residential parcels, you would have require a variance from the Planning Commission because you'd be violating the 4-to-1 lot depth to width ratio because it's a very kind of long and therefore would be a narrow lot. So you're really option now to develop by right without any private infrastructure in place would be a single family home. This does meet the size parameters of the O1 office district, and as I mentioned, the only one modification is the reduced setback toward the fire station. So here is the site plan. This is 15 Mile on this side. It's a very long kind of plan here, so it's oriented horizontally, but there'll be one office building on the front and then kind of a mirroring medical office building to the south. You have your accessible parking here closest to the entryway, proposed detention up front. The dumpster sharing in the middle between both office buildings is as far set back from the residence as possible. There'll be a 6-foot masonry wall and associated landscaping plan that will be filled in here as well, up to our landscaping standards, to buffer any headlights. Although the office building and the medical office are not typically anticipated to be open past 5 p.m., so there wouldn't be any light spillover from cars in the parking lot for the residences there. The elevations here show one of very high quality materials. It is 100% masonry on the side facing the residence and the side facing the north and south, with split face block on the rear facing the fire station. And both office buildings are anticipated to look this way. So with that, I'm open for any questions, and I do believe the applicant is here as well to provide any feedback. Right over there.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Parcell. Is there anyone in the audience, including the petitioner, who would like to speak tonight? Come on up to the podium if you would.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner. It is tax season. He is an accountant, so he wasn't able to be here tonight.
My dad was a CPA. He's recently retired, so I know that. Didn't see him at all. January, February, March. On April 16th, our house was as clean as could be. I was studying every night. It was really a
how it is.
traumatic experience for me growing up. So I know how it is, so no worries.
Thank you.
Do you have any comments you want to make, or do you want to just be available to answer questions
Just
if they come
available
up?
to answer questions as
Okay,
needed.
you got it. All right, you can go back and have a seat, and then we'll deliberate, and if we have anything, we'll call you up. All right, council, we need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson. I didn't see you.
Ken Nelson, Fire Steel Drive, Sterling Heights. I think it would be beneficial to the people that are listening out here to go over the difference between a conditional rezoning and a rezoning. Because this one is a conditional rezoning. Is that why the Planning Commission has everything to do with any variances? Because now we're back to variances. This is not a PUD. Changing the side yard setback used to be a job of zoning. Now, has that changed in the last year? So it might be beneficial to do that. The 15 feet to the city can give it up, but you've got a lot of big trucks working through there. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anyone else? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
Resolved to introduce the map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conditionally rezone property situated on the south side of 15 Mile Road, west of Mound Road and Section 32 from R60, which is one family residential district, to O1 Business and Professional Office District, case number PZ23-0010, and direct applicant to proceed to finalize a proposed conditional rezoning agreement so the city council can further evaluate the offer of conditional rezoning of subject property at the February 20th, 2024 regular meeting.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
At this time, because this was approved back in '08 for a different owner of the property, then reverted since he didn't develop it, now been repurchased, and this is just to start the process. I don't have questions, so thank you very much.
Okay, council, anyone else? Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to Dr. Parcell. Looking at this site plan, I have a couple questions. One, as the site stands now, it has some trees on it. How does this comply with our tree ordinance and the requirement that 50% of trees must be preserved or paid for?
Yes, so the applicant has provided a landscape plan for replacement trees. Any that are not brought in through the administrative site plan review process will have a requirement to be paid into the city tree fund. So we'll be covering that administratively should it be approved.
So as of right now, they haven't proposed what they're doing with the landscaping, or?
We have a landscape plan preliminarily that we have under review right now. We received it this week that's updated. The one that we got in 2008, obviously out of compliance from the 2017 ordinance. So we're making sure that moving forward at the 20th, you'll have the full landscape plan.
Well, no, I ask this because looking at this site plan, it seems like the intention is to almost completely pave the site. And that seems to not really comport with our sustainable initiatives, which is to reduce parking lot, reduce runoff, warm, concrete absorbs heat and then radiates it out for the residents around it. So I'm curious about both their landscaping plan. A couple other questions I have is, I don't see a connection from the sidewalk to the buildings. I know that all sites now have to have a sidewalk connection so that pedestrians don't have to cross where cars are. Is there no connection to the sidewalk on this plan?
If I may cover both. So under the landscaping plan, you really will still see a large amount of pavement here. They'll be required to landscape 50% of the islands, but otherwise you'll still have this relatively large swath of pavement that will wrap around the buildings. And additionally, there currently is no connection from the sidewalk. Most of the time when we get the concept plans through this, we have a few things to clean up administratively. We wouldn't allow for this to go through final site plan approval without meeting our ordinance, which you are correct, does require the connection through the pedestrian walkway.
And I guess through the chair to the petitioner, or who's on behalf of the petitioner, 84 parking spaces seems to be quite a number for even 2 office buildings, especially if they close at 5 p.m. Has the petitioner explored sharing parking on this site? Because if his tax preparation business is going to be open after hours, but the medical plaza isn't, maybe 84 parking spaces is severely overparking the site. So through the chair to the petitioner.
Yeah, you can come up. Please come to the podium if you want to speak.
Thank you. So they are requesting an excess amount of the parking spaces to accommodate the staff for both the accounting office building as well as the medical building. And during tax season, they do hire extra personnel to accommodate the needs of the clientele. So that is the reason for the number of parking.
84 spaces, yeah.
For the spaces, and I believe the way that it's laid out, they do intend to share the spaces, as it is gonna be technically one owner of both buildings. And I don't think that there is any section that's specifically for the office and specifically for the medical.
Sure. And the real reason I say this is, look, under our ordinance, he's fine, he can get away with this. But I think he's gonna find, from experience, my experience, that I've been doing this for a while, that he has too many parking spaces on site. He's gonna have more pavement than he needs, but that's his call. He'll learn. you
No,
know.
we absolutely respect that. The thing is, during the tax season, they do walk-ins as well as appointments, and during the walk-in days, people sit in their cars in the parking lot. And they'll sit for hours, so they just want to have that accommodation for them.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I support this in concept. I hope we can get some more greenery on the site. Hope the Office of Planning might be able to talk with them. Maybe some of these parking spaces might be even land banked. And if they feel that they need to have them, they could have them back. But I think a land banking here might be the most appropriate option for some of these parking spaces. And obviously, a connection to the sidewalk, and I have no problem with this rezoning. But I just wanted to, maybe they consider land banking, for those who don't know, is just the idea that you'd leave them as green space but they could always become parking if we needed them in the future.
So they just want to have that preparation there just in case.
I understand.
I guess maybe I don't fully understand what the green zone would be. Would it actually be a set parking spot, or would cars be allowed to park there, I guess?
So I'm going to say this, and you don't have to reply, it's okay. Land banking is just, instead of parking spaces where parking spaces would be, you would leave it as a green fallow area. So in the future, if parking spaces were needed at that place, they could easily be turned into parking spaces. So it's basically, you're just preserving the green space with the intention that if parking is needed, it could become parking.
That's
But
fair.
But I'm fine with this as it is, with those changes. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt?
Through the chair to Dr. Purcell. I know we moved the building all the way as close to the fire department as possible, and I can appreciate that. However, it leaves one tree on the opposite end of the property abutting the residential. And that kind of bothers me, that there's no opportunity for any other landscaping on the residential side. Any thoughts?
That would be a logical place to present some of the land bank parking spaces, should we be able to go that route. There is minimal kind of shrubbery there, but there is a 6-foot masonry wall that will be put across there, kind of restricting tree placement as well. So if we were to remove some of the parking spaces, we may suggest that they can be done there. One, to kind of protect headlights from pulling up as they pull in there. Many of us know, even by 5:30 p.m., it's dark outside most times in Michigan throughout the winter. So that would be logical, and we're happy to explore that.
Well, I appreciate the taking into account the residents and moving that building as far away from the residential as possible. I have no issue with this development. It's not a big apartment building, so I'm good.
Anyone else, council? All right, no further comment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
luck. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? All right, I'll close that. Council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Kosky.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next up is a consideration item. This is to consider an appointment to the City of Sterling Heights Arts Commission. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, is there anyone who has an appointment to make?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zarko.
resolve to appoint Jessica Conti to the Sterling Heights Art Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2024, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks. Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion?
None.
No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that completes that portion of our agenda. We will move on to communications from citizens, where you can speak on any item that was not on tonight's agenda. Just another reminder, we do have time limits for public participation. I believe they're 4 minutes. For 3 minutes, you'll have a green light in front of you. For 1 minute, you'll have a yellow light. When your 4 minutes is up, the red light will come on. I just ask that if you're in the middle of the thought, you get to your conclusion, wrap it up within 10 or 15 seconds, and then we'll all have plenty of time for everybody to speak. So that's it. Those are the ground rules. And I'll start with Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I'm referring to the meeting minutes of January 16th, where I had the opportunity to ask a couple questions of administration. And for the most part, I got most of my answers. But there was one, on December 5th, I brought to the council's attention that there was a flock system being approved in the consent agenda on December 15th or 16th, 19th. And all of a sudden, that was not on the agenda anymore, not on the consent agenda, and it hasn't been on since. Since this was a $247,000 project that we were working on, does it still require, and I want an answer to my question. This is going on for about 6 weeks. Does this no longer require the city council to approve, excuse me, to approve the expense? Okay? I'm kind of getting tired of coming up here asking questions and being ignored. I'm a citizen just like everybody else. If I have questions and it has nothing to do with city business, blow it off. I have no problem. This has something to do with city business, and there are many people out there that were concerned about the flock system. So I want that answer tonight. On another one, I think the city council, during all their planning, ought to think about reviewing some of their documents, like ethics ordinances and other ordinances that pertain to the city council. Also, the governing body rules of procedure. This 4 minutes that we get up here is unconstitutional. We have a right to speak, but there is nothing in the Constitution that says we have 4 minutes to speak at any open meeting. So I don't care if we're sitting here until midnight, till 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. People need their time to speak. If you're not going to look at that and take it out, then at least put where people can give their time over to the speaker in order for that speaker to continue their thought. One of those. Now, calling people out of order. One of them is to fail to address the council on matters germane to city business. Now, we've heard, I'm sorry, but we've heard 3 weeks, or 3 meetings right now about the problems with Palestinians. I don't like killing, I don't like people dying, but the city of Sterling Heights cannot act on that particular issue. If we were due to have a bomb threat or anything like that that affected our citizens, then we'd talk that way. So I think that if you even consider that one person speaking for all the people that are here on the same subject would work right here. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? I'll start on my right, and then I'll move to the center portion. It'll just be easier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. I am Sylvia Orduno. I'm a director of the People's Water Board Coalition. My 4th time coming to visit you, and I appreciate the opportunity again to talk to you about water affordability. I am working in conversation with many communities across Macomb. Recently been at the Macomb County Commissioners meeting, Warren City Council. In a couple days, I'll be going to Fraser, also going to Roseville, East Point. Some other residents are there tonight, talking about this statewide water affordability legislation that I've mentioned to you about. I appreciate last time, Councilmember Yanez, you mentioned that perhaps the council here should not take any kind of position on a resolution. And if you can't, if you don't feel that you're in a position to put one forward in a positive way, and I can very much appreciate that. I think the concern that we're wanting to really emphasize is that this is a matter that really does deserve your deliberation. And I appreciate what the planning, I forget his title again, who was discussing the master plan and the community engagement that you're going to be doing. That is very much about water affordability and infrastructure and green infrastructure and how you're going to be paying for all of these changes that residents may come forward with. The way that you build in the infrastructure is going to control the costs that residents are going to incur in their water bills. Very much so. This is a matter of how everything is going up. And I think it's important for us to think about how we put some kind of controls or limits on what it is that residents are going to be paying, because it's only going up. And there's a great risk right now, as all of this federal funding that's been coming through over the pandemic is now going to be ending. How are you now going to be able to deal with the cost of all the infrastructure, green and the other needs that you have? And there isn't right now a clear plan across many communities, community water systems, and how to do this so that you have some kind of basis for control. If any of you are familiar with the annual survey that the American Society of Engineers does, Michigan right now gets Ds, at best a C+ on infrastructure in the state. We don't have a way to pay for what's anticipated as $1 trillion to deal with all the infrastructure costs across the state. And as the Great Lakes state, we really should be having a better plan for this. Many other communities across the nation are trying to figure out what they do as groundwater is drying up, as there's drought, as there's flooding. But in the Great Lakes, we're in a great position to actually be leaders in how we think about the issues of infrastructure and affordability. And I hope as you think about this at a local level that you don't miss sort of like your role in this. And it might not seem anything that's really significant for how it is that you're doing the course of your business and trying to figure out your budgets, but it is when we try to figure out how many households are continuing to struggle economically coming out of the pandemic, how many residents are trying to figure out how they're going to afford the growing cost of housing. And when you choose, or any community chooses, to roll over water bills that they can't pay onto tax liens, that then jeopardizes housing stability in neighborhoods and other problems for residents. And as we have a growing baby boomer population that's going to be retiring, fixed income, people with disabilities, get injured on the job, car accidents, crime, whatever it is, there needs to be a way that local government, the state, can figure out a way to control those costs on water bills so that people aren't put in dangerous situations where they don't have water, they don't have good water, and that there's no way to figure out how to better protect them. So again, I've been coming here because I think it's critically important that you all, as one of the top cities in the state, have a role and a voice in this. It matters. And so there are many conversations going on with state house and senators, and we're hoping that, again, you can be influential in expressing your opinions to them, but it's a very critical issue for residents in the state. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very
Oh,
much.
and then lastly, in the document that I have passed out, there are 3 upcoming meetings that you might be interested in, including one at UAW Local 228 on March 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody on my right? If not, I'll move to my portion, my middle section. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, council members. My name is Rubayeth, and I'm here to remind you of your pending request to acknowledge our community's distress and our request for a ceasefire resolution. But today, we also return to demand, not request, demand an apology from Mike Retke. Show some standards, man. You should have been above all those tweets. This is not a war, this is a genocide. Having degrees in history and political science, you should know the difference between a war and a genocide. The only time I will use the word war is to describe the war crimes that occupiers are doing on the streets of Gaza. Let's take it there. Who is Israel having this war against? Gaza and innocent civilians? Wait, according to your tweets, Hamas is using them as human shields. Well, why doesn't Israeli soldiers document the dead bodies of Hamas members like they document in their social media, celebrating bombing of houses, raiding and looting them, inviting Israeli news reporter to come and ride on missiles? And she can decide if she should ride, quote unquote, for the people of Gaza or Gaza with love, then gets excited to fire them. You're right, we're not delusional. Civilian lives become collateral damage during war, but this is not war, this is a genocide. You retweeted some John Doe saying, why isn't Hamas listening to 47 city councils across America who have passed the ceasefire resolution? First of all, the ceasefire resolution is for Israel to stop, and Palestinians are too busy listening to bombs being dropped on them. Last but not the least, this tweet is so moronic. Please raise above. It is intolerable that an elected representative chosen by us uses a public platform to demean us. Our social media shows us both sides. If you have your social media surrounded by resources like that, then you cannot be trusted to have the most updated and well-informed news of what's happening around the world. Let's be honest, it's a long process. Ceasefire now, then lifting the siege, then ending the occupation, then freeing of Palestine. We won't even live that long to see the end of it. You're not passing the resolution for them, but for us, your people, your constituents. I'm not a Palestinian, and neither are you. You suddenly didn't get Ukrainian citizenship in 2022, exactly 2 years from now, to show support to your residents. See, you don't have to belong from a place to feel for them. We're done saying, imagine yourself and your kids going through this. Something does not need to happen to you to understand its severity. It's called having sympathy. Show us again that you feel for us. We are in distress. We need your reassurance. Thank you for having us here tonight, council members. And Mike, we will look forward to an apology.
Okay, look, I'm just gonna say, because I've gotten the messages, all right? I disagree with Mr. Nelson that I think that this portion of our public agenda is for you to talk about anything. And I'm not even sure if you just came up here and read off colors. I'm not sure I can stop you. So I don't think it has to be germane to city business. But what I'm telling you is that there is 4 minutes. 4 minutes isn't a lot of time, but it is also a lot of time. And if you guys want to have Twitter wars, I would recommend keeping it on Twitter. Okay? Just my advice, criticizing, if you want to spend your whole time criticizing Mike Radke for things he said on Twitter, it's not going to move the needle much. I promise you that. So if it makes you feel good to get it off your chest and let Mike have it, you know, as long as you stay within our rules. No, I'm talking now. Okay, I'm talking now. You don't see me shouting at you when you're at the podium, right? So if you want to do that, you know, I just would recommend that you don't. Okay, who'd like to be next? Yes, sir, in the back. Ma'am, you're out of order, and please keep your comments to yourself until you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm a citizen of Sterling Heights. Last week, I was able to speak briefly with Councilman Radke after the meeting. To be short, you stated that the issue about the ceasefire was controversial, and the council, this wasn't really within the purview of the council to speak on such matters. Well, for one, 70 city councils across the country have passed ceasefire resolutions, including Detroit and Chicago. The mayor of Dearborn has expressed clear support for the ceasefire. Other municipalities in the country, not least of all in Michigan, are taking action to speak on this. So I don't think that holds ground. Moreover, according to a poll conducted by the American Arab Institute and Rainbow Push, a plurality, if not majority, of voters across all categories, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, oppose how this war is being conducted and generally support peace. So this is not controversial according to the voters. And as far as it not being in the purview of the council, it should be reminded that they showed enthusiastic support for when Ukraine was invaded, maybe rightly so. Lights were lit on Hall Road, and the city council, and I believe the mayor made a statement supporting divestment from Russian companies. Why was that within the purview of the council, but supporting the ceasefire isn't? I think it comes down to a matter of principle. And I'll be generous here. I can understand the council maybe being hesitant to say support the ceasefire because they do not want to be accused of supporting a terrorist organization like Hamas. There's a lot of different opinions about the way Palestinians are resisting this invasion and the actions taken. At least me personally, I can't really defend what happened on October 7th. Hamas attacked. They knew what was going to happen afterwards. That said, Israel, with the full support of our government, responded in tandem with full force and full brutality. Councilman Radke, I understand you wrote your PhD thesis on U.S. intelligence in the Korean War. You should be aware that whatever terrorist-type tactics the Korean communists used, you should be familiar with the magnitude of brutality that our military inflicted on that country and those people. Half that country is still ruled by communists, by our enemy, and they have legitimacy with their people because they can say the U.S. destroyed our country, and unless we remain vigilant, they will destroy us again. Coming back to Ukraine, we see that despite the council, and in fact the whole country's support for the Ukrainian resistance and the many arms sent to them, that war remains at a standstill 2 years later. Ukrainians are no closer to getting their territory back, and Russia does not seem able to, take over Ukraine. 2 years later, no progress, and 500,000 Ukrainians have died. For what? If Hamas has demonstrated a willingness to use Palestinians as human shield in this game of warfare, then Israel, again, with the unconditional support of our government and its military forces and the industry supporting that, much of which is based here in Sterling Heights, they have demonstrated they're willing to play ball with Hamas. They will brutalize, starve, and bomb the people of Gaza into smithereens, as they are doing, until they turn over their resistance fighters. The idea that these wars must continue until an enemy is fully stomped out is a fantasy for either combatant.
All right, sir.
Is a nightmare for the millions of people caught in the crossfire. How many Palestinians have to die until we support a ceasefire?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the middle portion?
So we're not going to do the Twitter wars like Mayor Taylor said, because frankly, I have better time than spending my time on Twitter. Despite me smiling today, my heart is extra heavy. Over the past 3 months, I've been friends on Instagram with a nurse from Gaza. And during our last meeting, one of our speakers talked about how Al-Nasser Hospital was being besieged by the IDF. They were shooting at civilians trying to escape, bombing, but you already know all the facts. I'm done telling you about the facts. Mayor Taylor, you went to Wayne Law, you know about international law. Councilman Yanis, you also talked about being a paramedic. Mayor Pro Tem Surowski, you are also an RN. You guys are fully aware of the atrocities going on over there, I don't need to speak about that either. The last message I got from my friend was about 2 weeks ago. He said, "By God, the situation is very difficult and the IDF are approaching the hospital where I am. This may be my last message. Forgive me." This is the last message I received from him. I'm not going to stand here and convince you of the stats, the facts, and the evidence. That's what the International Court of Justice is for, which I'm also aware, and you're aware of what their ruling was. So I don't feel safe here anymore. A 6-year-old was stabbed 26 times for being Palestinian. I think yesterday, 2 more people were stabbed on college campuses. 3 young men my age, also going to college, were shot for wearing this. So what are you going to do if it's me next? I'm going to take an oath to do no harm to my patients. So explain to me how I can look my patients in the eyes and not picture the children of Gaza and not know that it was my taxpayer money that killed them, dismembered them. How can I sleep at night? Councilman Yanez, you said, do I just pass a ceasefire and go to sleep? Do we not and go to sleep? Because I haven't been able to sleep. I wake up from nightmares only to open Instagram and see reality is much more worse than my nightmares. So I don't know. Maybe you guys have an answer for me? Because I don't. There's nothing here left to say, what is the difference between the Ukrainian citizens that Mayor Taylor stood in solidarity with in March 2022 and us? Why are we not human enough to you? That's all I'm asking. And Councilman Radke, you can call us dumb or whatever you want to say. Quite frankly, I don't really care. But we are all United States citizens here. We have the voice, and we are speaking for those who don't have a voice. And our concerns are not dumb. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the center portion? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Sterling Heights. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sarah Wynn Klein, and I am a resident of your neighbor city of Warren. I've been trying to encourage city councils in my area to pass a ceasefire since November 30th. Around November 30th, over 15,000 people had been killed in Palestine. According to the UN, that number has increased to over 25,000 as of last Sunday. Unless American cities unite and pass ceasefire, this killing will not stop, and prisoners will not be released. In Michigan, Ann Arbor, Canton, Dearborn Heights, Detroit, Flint, Hamtramck, Kalamazoo, Washtenaw County, Wayne County, and Ypsilanti have all called for a ceasefire. According to the Human Rights Watch, as of November 1st, 2024, Israel holds nearly 7,000 Palestinians in military prisons. I'm reading a poem today by Mahmoud Darwish, who is considered Palestine's national poet, from the perspective of one of these prisoners. The prison cell. It is possible. It is possible at least sometimes. It is possible, especially now, to ride a horse inside a prison cell and run away. It is possible for prison walls to disappear, for the cell to become a distant land without frontiers. What did you do with the walls? I gave them back to the rocks. And what did you do with the ceiling? I turned it into a saddle. And your chain? I turned it into a pencil. The prison guard got angry. He put an end to my dialogue. He said he didn't care for poetry, and he bolted the door of my cell. He came back to see me in the morning. He shouted at me, "Where did all this water come from?" I brought it from the Nile, and the trees from the orchards of Damascus, and the music from my heartbeat. The prison guard got mad. He put an end to my dialogue. He said he didn't like my poetry, and he bolted the door of my cell. He returned in the evening. Where did this moon come from? From the nights of Baghdad, and the wine from the vineyards of Algiers, and this freedom from the chain you tied me with last night. The prison guard grew so sad. He begged me to give back his freedom. Thank you. Please help us get a ceasefire passed.
There's somebody in the back.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Michael Koki. I'd like to start by saying I am a Christian and I was raised in the church. My ethnicity is Chaldean, but before all else, I am American. As an American, I am privileged by the fruits of this nation. It is in that same privilege which I have a responsibility to use my freedom and ability to recognize and amplify the voices of those without a platform. Today, I am here to call on your authority as representatives of the Middle Eastern American population to call for a permanent ceasefire in Palestine. As I speak, there are people of all ages and ability being starved and denied proper medical treatment at the will of the Israeli occupation. Before I give reason to my claim, I should state that I condemn all violent or oppressive crimes committed by Hamas and the Israeli occupation. While some believe this issue to be far off shores, in a region where conflict is constantly raging, this is not a conflict. This is a genocidal ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. No American wants their tax dollars being sent to make another country prosper when so many of us feel like we're struggling. Since World War II, 260 billion American tax dollars have been given to the Israeli occupation for military and economic aid. Since 2009, our country has given $3 billion per year in aid to the occupation. This money should be invested in the tangible and intangible systems we have within our local communities to further produce a country which is more wealthy, happy, and healthy. Today, the occupation uses its large military budget to carpet bomb the enclave, spending the equivalent of $246 million daily. I may not be the most knowledgeable on all the nuances of the conflict, but I know where my money is being wasted. Not only are my tax dollars being wasted, but they are also actively destabilizing the Middle East. Here in Sterling Heights, we have a large Middle Eastern American population. We don't just live here, we stimulate the economy and enrich the fabric of our community. As representatives, it's your responsibility to serve the public. Those who have come to speak with you today may seem emotional, but we are not here to attack. We are here because we must exercise our political representation. This movement is beyond our city. It is a movement for universal justice. And when we turn a blind eye to atrocities happening to other people, we are disregarding the movement, justice for all. It may seem insignificant for a city like Sterling Heights to pass a resolution, but the more cities who raise their voices, more pressure will push the White House to change its current position. Sterling Heights could be on the right side of history. Show the people who you stand for. You truly empathize with them and their cause. Thank you.
Anyone else in the center portion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to start off by apologizing to you. I was out of line. I am, in fact, a Palestinian. I'm here with a few of my Palestinian family. You guys, for me, this is a personal issue, and it's really hard for me to keep my composure together. As you know, I'm a Palestinian Christian. My family is from the holy city of Jerusalem. Every day is a nightmare. Every day we have to wake up and look at our phones to make sure our family is still okay. We were blessed that we are here in America. And yes, we love America. America has given us so much. And America has given me a voice for the voiceless. We prayed before we started this council meeting. We prayed together, and I thought that was beautiful. And I pray for my family and my friends in Palestine because they are not safe. And it is not hard to call for a ceasefire. This isn't about Hamas or Israel. This is about humans, for little children who I don't know if I'm going to get a call and hear that they're no longer of this earth. It hits me personally. I live in Sterling Heights. I work in Sterling Heights. My children go to school in Sterling Heights. Every piece of paper that comes home is translated in the Arabic language. I think that's beautiful. I think we have a beautiful Arabic community here. I think what you do for the community, Mr. Mayor, is great. And I love that about you. I've always boasted about how amazing of a mayor you are, because we're such a diverse community here. But what hurts my heart the most is that for me, this is personal, and the city that I live in, that I love so much, has not called for a ceasefire. Because this is not a Palestinian-Israeli issue. This is simply a humanitarian issue. And I just ask for you to call for a ceasefire, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the center portion? I'll move on to my, yes, the back.
My name is Lucy Bazzi. I live on Butler Drive. My concerns pale in comparison to what's going on in other parts of the world. But I'm standing up for the trees, specifically in Dodge Park, specifically about the bike trails. Now, I haven't heard, I don't know who to talk to about the bike path that they want to put through the easement and cut down 50-year-old, 100-year-old trees. They've already destroyed and cut down many trees and all the vegetation along the Clinton River. And I've been here long enough to know the people that established Dodge Park, and their vision was to keep it natural. And since they cut down so many trees, and we talked to the guy that, the Parks and Recs guy said, well, we'll plant more. Well, let's see. A 50-year-old tree can give more oxygen, holds the soil for the erosion, has places for wildlife. Since you've cut down, since Sterling Heights destroyed all the vegetation along for the canoe thing that I wouldn't walk in Dodge Park. My daughter walked in it twice and got ringworm twice. We don't play in the Clinton River. But we've got now the coyotes visiting because they run along the river when there's vegetation. And in my community, we've got a family of coyotes. And I just would like to commend those of you who are standing up for the landscaping and the trees that directly affect me and the people in my neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone on my left? I'll come back.
Hi, my name is Diane Weckerly, and I'm here as a public health nurse to talk about the water affordability bills. But I would also just like to condemn the genocide in Gaza before I start this. So we've talked about the water affordability bills in the past, but I just want to highlight why we should pass them. What are the benefits of this bill, of this package of bills? One is that residents under 200% of the poverty level will be eligible for a cap on their water bill of 2 to 3% of their income. This should really help seniors and others who are low income. Water providers in communities they serve can keep their current program and they can tweak it in any way they want. Another program won't be set up next to it. The problem is that, well, they just have to maintain the benefits of the state guidelines. The problem with the current program, the RAP program, is it's a temporary assistance program. That means that it's not financially sustainable in the long run. So those seniors and the disabled who are on it now may be removed from it in 2 years, maybe a little longer, but it's a temporary assistance program that lasts maximum of 2 years. Just remember that, please, because this could be a real problem in the future if this is not passed. What are some of the other benefits? There'll be protections to prevent, if you have a debt on your water bill, that debt will not be transferred to your property taxes, hopefully. I mean, there'll be protections to prevent this. The key protection is that the program could wipe clean your arrears of up to $1,500, which could be really helpful for some. The program would also pay for plumbing repairs of up to $2,500 to repair a leak. And there will be protections to prevent shutoffs. So, I mean, the main thing I want to say is that, yes, there would be a $2 a month fee, but it's to make a program that's long-term, that's sustainable, that people can actually afford. So I would hope that it gets passed statewide. Please do the right thing. It will help everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Dear esteemed members of the council and the mayor, my name is Saba Saad, and I'm a senior studying neuroscience, going on to a pre-law track at Michigan State. I'm not a Sterling Heights resident, but I'm here today to address Councilman Michael. I'd like to state the U.S. Constitution was established in 1789, and the first 10 amendments are referred to as the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and such, which allows Councilman Mike to freely say things like, these have to be the dumbest people imaginable. I hate this timeline. He also stated, and I quote, these people are ushering in their own doom. These comments were left on a video of me on a clip from Face the Nation. I'm not sure but what you mean by these people. However, terms like this are very dehumanizing, and I would like to know more context about why you thought that was an appropriate choice, and we could discuss this after if you're interested. The point is, Councilman Mike was simply exercising his First Amendment right. As a graduate of UMich, Columbia, and the London School of Economics and Politics, I don't think I need to explain much about what the Constitution states and doesn't. On your LinkedIn, I've seen you've taken many different classes on foreign policy, one of them including American constitutional law and democracy, as well with other classes about wars and all such things that were very, very impressive to read. But I would think with all of these, you would know that using terms like these people is not the correct terminology, and it's very, very harmful. Alongside with your classes, you also completed a research titled CIA Operations in China During the Cold War, and an authored dissertation, Operation Third Force, the Red Menace, McCarthyism, and U.S. Central Intelligence Activities in China from 1947 to 1952. So you're well-knowledged on the harms of a strong central government, the harms of propaganda, and just the harms of allowing the citizens of a nation not to be able to express themselves freely. My comment in that interview was quite short. And I was basically stating that as an American, we need to be doing our responsibility to make sure we uphold our law and our value in the Constitution. So when President Joe Biden does not get congressional approval to bomb any place, that violates the Constitution. Alongside, the president should not be surpassing Congress to send billions and billions of aid to a state that is currently on trial in the International Court of Justice. Note the word justice in there. And the International Court of Justice ruled that South Africa's case is plausible and that Israel might be accused of genocide. They may have committed genocide. It is my responsibility and duty as an American, I'm Palestinian, but as an American as well, to make sure we don't allow our leaders to get away with breaking the law and the Constitution. Councilman Mike, whatever you posted about me in your clip is your American right. As I did not find offense to it, nor did I think that it was harmful. I think it's the beauty of America, the fact that we can disagree and agree with each other politically and not politically, and we can express ourselves freely. But when our presidents and our elected officials are not listening to their constituents and the people that elected them to be the voice of that, it baffles me and it makes me angry, which makes me say things like, I'm not going to vote because you're not representing me. So I'm almost out of time, so I'm not going to go through with anything. So I urge you here today, I'm here, I drove all the way from East Lansing, to listen to the constituents of Sterling Heights and pass a resolution in favor of the ceasefire. And you don't necessarily have to care about Palestinian rights, but as officials, you take oath to uphold the Constitution and its values, and that does include listening to your constituents that I've known have come here many times asking for a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, I started out to just enjoy this meeting on television, but it was too good to resist. And all I say is, Mayor Taylor, please end this war. You're more powerful than the United Nations, and while you're at it, you can end the Middle East hostilities. You know, the British and the UN since 1947 hadn't been able to do this, but I'm sure Sterling Heights can put a lid on this, along with the unpleasantness in Taiwan, North Korea, and Ukraine while you're at it. I hear this term thrown around loosely. It just kind of gets me going. Genocide, you know, getting rid of a whole race. Genocide. Well, you know, World War II, out of 12 million Jews in Nazi-occupied territory, they exterminated 55% of them. And now we have a war in which there's about 1.4 billion Muslims, and a couple people have got killed in this hostility, and you throw the genocide term on that. That's pretty loose use of the vocabulary. How about you want a Middle East ceasefire? Yeah, well, up until October 7th of last year, we seemed to be having a ceasefire when Hamas went into Israel and killed over 2,000 totally innocent people just because they were easy targets. And while they're at it, they kidnapped 250 hostages. Well, maybe the Gazas, if they want a ceasefire, start out by giving back the hostages. Well, I know that none of this is city council business. It isn't for me, it isn't for them. But, you know, it is kind of ironic. I was in Strategic Air Command, and my first day on alert in SAC was actually the 50 years before the Gaza invasion of Israel. Yom Kippur, 1973. I've been on alert for 8 hours, and we got the launch message, and it decoded to Green 5, which was real war. And the United Arab Republic had attacked Israel in a genocidal attack to exterminate Israel. But the U.S. unleashed its forces, and this is as relevant as them, isn't it?
Yeah, hold on. Look, I mean, we've sat through three, this is the third council meeting, okay? And from what I can tell, Paul's the first person to speak against what you guys are saying. And you act like this. I mean, are you kidding? Are you kidding? You can't keep quiet. You're snickering, you're commenting, you're laughing. Keep your comments to yourself, okay? Sit there respectfully for him, just like everybody else does for you. If that's too much to handle, I gotta be honest with you. It makes my opinion of the message that you speak up here go all the way to the ground. Because it means you're not here to have dialogue. You're not here to have your voice be heard. Okay? So, look, Paul's been here a number of times. And oftentimes I enjoy his commentary, even if I completely disagree with it. He has a right to speak just like everybody else. And it's distracting to us when everybody in the audience is making noise. So please stop. I mean, nobody has treated you that way. Nobody. Okay? And certainly you have to understand, there are people with a different viewpoint than you. It'd be very easy to fill hundreds of people in here who disagree with you. And they can hiss and laugh and call you out when you're speaking. Okay? And is that what you want? Because it's not professional. It's not productive. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, the U.S. is on the Israeli side. We demolished the United Arab Republic, and to get even with us, they ginned up OPEC and raised our gas prices and had oil embargoes. And we put up with all of that, and the U.S. still supports Israel. Now, there have been a war going on in the Middle East since 1947, and lots of people bigger than Sterling Heights City Council have tried to end that war, and they can't end it. Because when you crush ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, there have been 20 different organizations out to destroy Israel, and once Hamas is gone, they'll crush that and another one will come, and they're not going to have peace in the Middle East. If you want to get away from war in the Middle East, leave the Middle East and come to America and leave the war behind and become an American. Quit fighting the Middle East war. If you really support Gaza, go back to Gaza and fight the Israelis from Gaza, not at a city council meeting. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else on my left? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Elizabetta, and I have been a Sterling Heights resident for 37 years. I was raised here, and I have chosen to raise my 3 children here. One reason I especially love this city is because of the diverse community we live in. And I find it to be incredibly important that my children get to grow up in a place where it feels like everyone matters. During the last city council meeting, I was feeling hopeful after hearing the remarks from our mayor and some of our council members. It made me feel hopeful that not just all of you were listening, but other people in the community were listening, and it was becoming easier and clearer to understand why a resolution for a ceasefire for Palestine is the human thing to do. Although I am not Palestinian, I share in their anguish over what is happening across the globe, especially as a mother who cannot even fathom what all Palestinian mothers are going through. Over the past 4 months, the Israeli government has killed over 11,500 Palestinian children in Gaza, not just a few people, as he said. Thousands more are under the rubble, and the surviving children are witnessing violence and experiencing starvation, disease, and mass displacement. This past November, my son, who is almost 10 years old, was so nervous to take his karate test and get a new belt color. Being nervous about a test like that is what is normal. Unlike Mohammed, who is 10 years old, he lived in the occupied West Bank where he was shot in the chest as he was crossing the street by Israeli soldiers. My middle child, who's here tonight, she's 8 years old and she loves to ice skate. She's the most attached to me. She never wants to leave me, hence why she's here tonight. She wants to sleep with me every night. Nada, an 8-year-old currently living in Palestine, in a refugee camp where she has already experienced 3 bombings to date, the last one killing her mother, her grandmother, her grandfather, and her uncle. My youngest is 5 years old. She loves Barbies and princesses dogs in school. She especially loves her Palestinian-American teacher who's here tonight. Amira, a 5-year-old girl in Gaza, is the only remaining survivor in her family, and she was found under the rubble being held by her mother. She has fractures and wounds to her face and to her eyes. There is no safe place for them, no sense of security for these children. There is trauma, anxiety, fear, worry, nightmares. All children deserve to be protected, and I am here tonight speaking to our city council because if this was happening here, happening to our babies, I believe that the mothers of the world would stand up, come together, speak out, fight, protest. It's absolutely insane to me that there was more outrage over masks and vaccines for our children than there is for all these babies dying. The U.S. gives Israel $3 billion towards military aid, and we should be outraged over that, outraged that it is killing children. I know many people think that being here tonight is just a waste of time because what will it do if Little Sterling Heights passes a ceasefire? And I understand the challenges of all of you and your roles, and I appreciate all you've done so far. I voted for each of you. But I want to continue to feel proud to live in this city. I want my kids to someday read how Sterling Heights, Michigan was on the right side of history and stood up for what was right. Please, please consider it. Thank you.
My name is Saeed Mohsen. I'm a resident of Sterling Heights. I'm here to address, in our, I think, meeting a few weeks back, Mayor Taylor, you mentioned that the city cannot do anything if both parties are not willing to commit to a ceasefire. However, I must point out that this is merely a two-party conflict. Innocent Palestinians, people who are caught in crossfire, these individuals, children, mother, fathers, elders, have no part in the conflict's politics. Yet they suffer the most. And do we not believe that these people who are dying, right, who are losing their loved ones, desperately yearn for a ceasefire? So why do we have to be concerned if both parties are going to commit to a ceasefire? And some people might also argue that elected government of Palestinian people represent their interests, so they have to commit to a ceasefire. However, it's essential to recognize that Hamas's election in 2006 does not reflect the current sentiments of the Palestinian people. With only 44% of the vote, it has been 17 years since that election, which means 70% of Gaza's population today was not even qualified to vote today, in 17 years ago. So 70% of Gaza's population have nothing to do with electing Hamas as their government. So again, one of our councilmen, he mentioned in that meeting that this is a complicated conflict. What would the city do? And do I just, pass a resolution just to go to sleep at night? While international politics are indeed complex and probably a city's politics, it doesn't do any justice to it, the suffering of innocent people are not complex. The images and videos emerging out of Gaza that are broadcasted live for us to watch of children harmed and families displaced are heart-wrenching. And it doesn't have to be a political issue. You don't have to be qualified to pass a resolution. It is a humanitarian crisis, and genocide is not complicated for any of you feel what is the right thing to do. Largest cities in the country have passed a resolution. By being a city that does not, you send a single message to your citizens that this city does not stand for liberty and justice, but it stands in compliance for its support for genocide funded by the taxes of its citizen. But no, I don't believe that this is what we are for. I believe we are for humanity. I believe this is a city that stands for freedom, and our taxes
do not fund a genocide, and that is why we will pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else under communications from citizens?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone, Mayor, council members. My name is Muqtadir Sharaf. I've been a resident of Sterling Heights for the past 2 years, a resident of Warren, Michigan for about 11, and a resident of Michigan for about 24 years. I'm not originally from Michigan, and council members, you also, I believe you have loved ones also all around the country. Right now, I have a special lady waiting for me in Vancouver, which again is not within this country, but if a foreign power, say for example, Russia, were to, I don't know, suddenly decide that they wanted to get, I don't know, revenge on America for any, particular reason, given our current relations with them, I wouldn't hesitate to go over there and protect my loved one, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't either. However, I have loved ones in another part of the world as well. They are in Gaza. I don't know them, but if I could, I would have immediately gone over to do my part to protect the people I believe deserved to be protected. However, because of the U.S. and its relationship with Israel, I was and still am unable to do so. But that's besides the point. Because what it comes to is, if we were given the decision to choose between right and wrong, which way would we go? It's easy to villainize any one group. We as the Muslims here can easily, if we wanted to, villainize the Israelis for the innocents that are currently being slaughtered. But many of us choose not to. I do not choose to. I do not see Israelis as evil people. And I'm pretty sure a good portion of you probably don't either. However, I think that same sentiment deserves to be extended out to the people of Gaza as well. Likewise, just like, I don't know if you guys remember, but during the Cold War, 1983, we had an incident where false signals were sent over to the Soviet Union. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov of the Soviet Union Air Defense had the option to consider whether or not the U.S. was human enough to save, or whether or not to take the threat seriously and retaliate. He chose to not only save the U.S., but the decision was inspired by his sentiments to save humanity. And the thing is, I'm here today to really request from you to have that same level of consideration. Is that, sure, it's not a place where we're from, but the thing is, it could be. And the thing is, it shouldn't matter, because there could be people there that we care about there. And even if that even isn't the case, there's still humans there that other people care about. If it was you guys, yeah, we'd stand up. We'd fight for you guys any day. If we found out that Sterling Heights, the Chaldeans were being attacked, the Muslims would come and join. We would defend, because it's not just, our neighbors. We're all one community, right? So the thing is, I'm not gonna make that request for a resolution for ceasefire, because everyone else has already done that. If you can, my request is to put in your efforts to humanize the people of Gaza, spread their voice, have them heard, let them be noticed just as much as the Israeli casualties. And if you don't see that as something that needs to happen, at least do your due diligence to humanize them for yourselves. Thank you.
Anybody else under communications?
Buju, Bejgo, Noden, Kwe, Nindijnikas, Magazine, Nindodem, Misquabe, Kong, Ojibwe, Kwe, Nindao, Nikwe, Jang Nada. Hi, my government name is Roxy Sproul. My Anishinaabe name is Bejgo Nodinkwe. I am a proud citizen of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe out of northern Wisconsin, but I'm also a proud Yooper, so I've been in Michigan my entire life. And I just wanted to briefly voice my support for my fellow Indigenous people who are in this room. Yeah, I also wanted to mention that I'm also a student at Michigan State University, so I also wanted to show up for my fellow student advocates. So I wanted to just briefly state that as someone who has a very, very, very intimate relationship with genocide as a Native person, the minimum you can do is pass a resolution asking for a ceasefire. That is the minimum thing that you could do. As someone whose land you're standing on, you're all sitting on the water that is here that you were speaking of, the coyotes that previous people who were speaking of, those are our relatives. That is this land, Anishinaabe land. And for many of you, I'm sure I'm probably the first Native American person you've ever met. And if that's the case, then hi, we're still here, we still exist. But we share a lot of the similar experiences that are happening with Palestinians in the colonization over in Palestine. And so I just wanted to voice my support. This is an obligation for me as a proud citizen of my tribal nation. And as a spiritual obligation to people that are experiencing genocide in similar ways that my people have experienced them on the very land that you are standing on. The Great Lakes that you call home, bloodshed of my people, forced assimilation of my people in this area, being pushed off our lands, outside of these Great Lakes that you all call home, I'm assuming. And so I just wanted to voice my support for the other Palestinians here. The minimum thing that you can do is really stand in support with them as well, especially if you've never faced that type of intergenerational pain, that intergenerational anger. There are tens of thousands of Palestinians that have been bombed, children, most of them being children. And that is very similar to exactly what the United States did here to my people. Being forced into residential schools, killed at residential schools, pushed off our homelands, even in my own direct bloodline. So yeah, I guess I yield my time. Thank you.
Anybody else? We only allow one opportunity per meeting. I know you drove a long way, and I appreciate that. It means a lot. It means a lot, but we only have one time.
I came unprepared. Hello, Mayor, Councilman. I just want to say I'm a Sterling Heights resident. I want to say that I feel bad for children. I want to say that if any Sterling Heights resident was being raped, beaten, purse stolen, anything happened, woman, man, child, I would be the first to defend them. And I'm Jewish. I lost a cousin in Kfar Oz in Israel. My parents are Holocaust survivors. A lot of what these people are saying is correct, but a lot of what these people are saying are untruths. When you go into a country, you rape women, you burn children in ovens, you burn people, you take them from concerts and mutilate them, cut their breasts off. I'm sorry, that's war. And war is not good. Be it with the indigenous people, with the Arab people, with the Ukrainian people. I didn't see any of you talking about Syria, where 500,000 Christians and Muslims were killed by Assad. I didn't see anybody talk about Jordan kicking out 2 million Palestinians who just took over Lebanon, and now they're Hezbollah. I don't see you screaming about Egypt.
Sir, the comments have to be addressed to me.
I don't see these people speaking about Egypt, not opening the gate to let the Gazans out to safety, at least in the desert, build tents while this war is going on. None of the countries around are helping Palestinian people, and I'll answer why. because Hamas is not good people. Correct. The Palestinian people did not vote for Hamas. This was a 16-year-old story, 18-year-old story. I understand that. But they also didn't do an uprising and throw them out. They've lived with them. They've supported them. You talk about Israel getting money. UNRWA, the Palestinian organizations, Hamas, gets $4.5 billion from the UN and all countries around the world every year, more than Israel. They built tunnels. There's 10 Americans in those tunnels right now, dying, suffering, being raped, being beaten every day. And you're talking about Gaza children? We're in America now. I fight for America. My father fought in the Korean War in this country. He was a Holocaust survivor. He lost over 200 brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, his grandparents, and cousins. So I know what it's like. War is not good. War is not fun. This resolution should not be brought by a city to support anybody in this world but our city of Sterling Heights, for our trees, our sidewalks, our schools, our police, our uniformed officers, our firemen. That's what we're here for. I support the community. I would stand up and take a knife and a bullet for anybody in the city if they were right. I don't care what their religion was, where they were from. I'm an American first. But I stand up for what's right. And when you attack a country, war is war. And that's something that cannot be changed right now till it's over. And it will be over by Israel. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
How you guys doing? I came unprepared. I just want to specify a few things. Palestinians, Muslims, Jews, Christians all live in harmony for years on end. It's not an issue between Muslims, Christians, and Jews. It is an issue between a Zionism mindset, unfortunately, that took control and preserved the Israeli state, and they took the Zionist mindset to use that as genocide against the Palestinian people. So it's never been an issue between Muslims, Christians, Jews, anything like that. We all live in peace and harmony. Second thing I want to mention, there's been no evidence of rape by Hamas or any Palestinian during this war at this moment. The hostages most have been released, and we've seen the footage of them being released. They have had smiles on their face. Israel tried to claim they were drugged before they left, but there's been multiple cases of the hostages being released, and they're smiling and being okay with it. There's no bruises, there's no batter, there's no rape evidence, there's no rape kit, there's no beheaded babies, there's no burned babies, there's nothing of the sort. If you look at Israeli news television, there have been reports by the soldiers saying their government, or sorry, their commander has given them the go-ahead to shoot the tanks at the kibbutz. Every kibbutz, unfortunately, is a military base because it is a settlement, a legal settlement by international law. So surrounding the kibbutz are tanks. Instead of the tanks fighting at Hamas where they don't know and they can't find, they took the tanks and they did, unfortunately, shoot it at the houses in the Israeli kibbutz. There's evidence all over Israeli media. You guys can look it up yourself. By them, they said it themselves on Israeli media. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a long history. I pray for Palestine. I'm a Palestinian Christian myself. We are from Jerusalem. My sister's right there. Yeah, I mean, it's been rough, dude. Like, my family can't go home. We are blessed to be here. By God willing, we are blessed to be here. I love this country more than anything. I mean, Palestine a little bit more, you know what I mean? But it's going through a lot right now. But we can't go home. We can't go back. There's no option for that for us. If we do, we're succumb to occupation, brutality. It's not a war, this is genocide. And everything that Israel is doing is illegal under international law. They did the same thing in South Africa. And even South Africa, the courts are ruling to charge them with genocide. I know I'm kind of everywhere, so I do apologize. I'm unprepared. But yeah, my name is Salim Awad. I really hope you take into consideration the things that I've said. Free Palestine. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Going once, twice. Okay, I'm going to close that portion, and we'll go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool, anything tonight?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Koszubski?
Yes, Mayor, we have one item for closed session.
Okay. Council, any reports, new business?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Konski?
a few weeks back, or I should say about a month ago, I asked administration for some information regarding power BB guns. We received that information January 18th in our brief. With that said, with no objection from council, I ask that our city attorney prepare an amendment for council review to regulate the use of power BB guns in the city, similar to what Grand Rapids and Birmingham have done. That way we can possibly tighten our resolution in regard to the use of the powerful BB guns. Thank you.
All right, council, any thoughts, any objections, any issues?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
just briefly, I just want to clarify, as I understand what you're asking, Mrs. Koski, is to limit but not ban the use of BB guns in the city. Am I inferring that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, then I have no objection.
Keep the pellets within your property.
Council, anyone else? I mean, I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely sure what is being asked for, but I have no objection to the city administration
If you're,
bringing forth an ordinance. I mean, I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but I'm not, I guess I'm not quite sure exactly what type of ordinance you're asking for. I guess I'll see it when they prepare it. Mr. Kashubsi, do you think you have clear direction?
Well, I think I'm going to look at Grand Rapids and Birmingham to see what they.
Do a little reading.
And I'll,
Duncan Alter's the one that gave
I'll-
us the information.
I'll take a look at that.
So you can have him do it.
Well, you know, good lawyers borrow, great lawyers steal. So see what you got.
That's why they always steal from us.
That's right.
Well, Kirkland doesn't steal from you. You don't have to worry about that. All right, Mrs. Koski, sorry for that sidebar. Anything else tonight?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Council, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Yanez. He got in. He got in before you.
Yeah, he doesn't look, he just talks. Go ahead.
I did make eye contact with him.
I
did make eye
realize it's
contact.
2024, and I shouldn't say ladies first, you know.
Go ahead, go
I'll probably
ahead, 'cause
get
I
dinged
have-
for that, but ladies first.
I got a long list here. You want to go first?
Okay, let me get through mine, because it's
Yeah.
not quite as.
I got a long one.
We have a couple of days to recognize coming
gotta
up
pee,
on
too.
March 22nd is World Water Day.
What was that, Mr. Yanez? I couldn't hear you.
March 22nd is World Water Day. And the month of April is Autism Awareness Month, so without objection, I would like resolution supporting both World Water Day and March 22nd World Water Day and April's Autism Awareness Month be prepared for the March 19th meeting, without objection.
Council, any objection?
Okay, good. Also, Mr. Mayor, I've been spending an inordinate amount of time reading the charter lately, and I noticed one thing very specific about the charter is there's a lot of gender bias in there. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't even know that women existed if you read a lot of our documents.
We couldn't even take out a credit card back then.
Yeah, not even back then. So I don't know how it's been done in the past, but without objection, I would like city administration to put together a commission or some sort of board, whatever, to review our charter and all our city council documents, just to update them and the language in those documents.
Okay, Mr. Kashubski, I mean, can we clean up language in the charter without voting on it?
I'm going to have to look at that, Mayor. I don't know that we can just wholesale
And if we do that,
change everything in a charter just to make it gender neutral, but I can try to get you an answer.
If you can report back, that'd be great. Yeah, it's just, everybody is referred to as him or he.
I've noticed that myself.
Yeah, so I think we just, our females that are, I'm sorry, boy, I just blew that one. The ladies.
Majority.
Never mind, yeah.
The majority.
And you're in the majority, yes, so, yes, gender neutral is what I'm trying to say.
Let me
Wow.
report back on that.
Thank you, Mr. Kashubski. In regards to the water affordability legislation, I've had many conversations with Senator Chang about this. I know we haven't forwarded anything. She felt very strongly that if we weren't going to be supportive, and she understands the situation with Mrs. Miller and her input on this and the position it might put us in, she thought that the best thing for us to do is maybe just stay out of it. And I feel very strongly that this is a state problem, right? Pieces of legislation. I feel very strongly that our state legislators should be handling this. yeah, it'd be great if we had some sort of input to the senators and representatives that represent Sterling Heights. But the fact of the matter is, people got to get in a room and solve a problem. And there is a problem. I delivered cases of water to Flint during the Flint water crisis. I worked with a private organization to bring clean drinking water to the citizens of Flint. I walked many blocks in the city of Flint, and I understand the difficulty and the poverty that exists not only in Flint, but in other cities. I do believe something needs to be done. One of the things I asked Senator Chang about, it cost the state of Michigan $350 million for the Flint water crisis. And that was just the first payment. There are children who were injured by those lead lines that the state will be paying for them for years. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, we're talking $2 a month on a water meter. If we divided the cost of that the initial Flint water payment is $13 per month per water meter. So why don't we take care of the problem now and pay the $2 a month? But obviously it has to be a smart, well thought out piece of legislation. We don't want to duplicate programs. I get all that. But the fact of the matter is, Lansing is really good at kicking the can down the road. And this is an issue, if there's anything that's important, it's water. We can't exist without it. You have to have clean drinking water. I was in the home of a lady who had, she must have had 30, 40 cases of water stacked up in her living room because that's how she cooked, that's what she drank, that's how she bathed. Everything that she had to do with water had to come out of a bottle. And we can't have that anymore. And in regards to that, I'll say this is something I tell everybody when they complain about this tax or that tax. No one ever complains about their prison tax, but we spend $2 billion a year in this state funding prisons. That comes out of your pocket as well. We're not charging your water meter, we're not charging your gas meter, we're not charging your electric meter, but it's coming out of your pockets, $2 billion a year. So that's all I'm going to say on that, but I fully support those pieces of legislation getting passed, and I hope reasonable minds come together to pass good legislation. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yanez.
All right, so thank you, Mayor Taylor. Okay, I am not going to ignore the elephant in the room any longer. So I've listened to you guys for over 2 weeks, almost a month, that you guys have been coming. Our Palestinian and people who are concerned about Palestine and your plight. So I've heard you, and I'm going to be honest. I have heard you. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring the issue. We've all heard you. That's definitely true. Of course, in all honesty, we are definitely against children dying, being bombed, being maimed, the innocent being bombed, being maimed, everyone that's caught in the crossfire. It's appalling, it's horrible. Nobody likes war, a genocide, which is definitely how you feel, how this is panning out. Maybe a genocide, depends on the number. You can debate numbers and if it is or isn't a genocide. The gentleman named Nick who asked, what is this all for? What is this for? And we ask that about all wars. And war itself, it's very often pointless. It's sad. It's horrible. My son is a Marine. He's an officer in the Marine Corps. He is going to be in there until he is retired or something happens to him. He went to Afghanistan. If he wasn't doing laundry at 4 in the morning, he'd be dead right now because his bed was shot up with a missile, not just a gun. So it's pointless in many cases. Some cases, there's a reason for it. This has been going on for so many years that there's so much history. There's so much hate. There's so much anger. There's so much misinformation that it's painful. It's painful to hear. And so a resolution we're talking about. But that's not going to get resolved tonight. But I have some things I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight. So first of all, show of hands, a lot of people left, but how many people here are actually from Sterling Heights? Thank you. And yes, I appreciate, yes, Paul, the gentleman here, yes, this is important because You people who, especially the Palestinian people who are here from Sterling Heights, what I'm asking you to do is get yourselves a little bit more organized and get 1 or 2 representatives together. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks, but you guys know where I am. You've got my emails. I will be back. I'll be back for the next meeting. Mayor Taylor won't be because he's bailing on, no, he's going on his vacation. We're all allowed vacations. But when I get back, I want you to.
I'm not going on vacation.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Anyway, and he gets to go on vacation just like everybody else does. I am going.
Why don't you give him my address too, for God's sake?
They know where you live. It's okay. Okay, he's not going on vacation, but I'm going to be running the next meeting. He can just sit there quietly at his station. And we all deserve a little vacation. I know I do. But my point being, I will be here at the next meeting. I won't be able to address anything that I'm telling you until I get back. But what I want you to do is get a representative. It's important because all of this is coming at us. Too much information, too much chaos is not helping you. Get a representative. I've already talked to the representative from John James's office. He is our U.S. representative. He's who we got. And he's a good guy. Might be a Republican, might be a Democrat. This is who we have to deal with. It's not, as you have said, this is nonpartisan. So we're not going to make this political. I've got a call into Debbie Stabenow's office. They're going to get back to me. I've known Debbie Stabenow since she was a city council person for East Lansing. Go Spartans, go green. I'm a Sparty. So she will get back to me. I do know her personally, and I've talked to Carl Marlinga. These people will talk to you. You guys talk about, I don't want my tax dollars being used for this. These are the people that spend your tax dollars. So these are the people you need to really talk to. We could do a resolution all day long, but it's going to go to these people. Let's talk to them. These are the ones that matter, and I can help get you to them. And then we can start to make more of an impact. This is what you need. You need to leverage your vote and your voice. That's what makes the difference, more than a resolution from City Council. City Council, yes, we can make a resolution. It looks good for more cities making a difference, but let's talk to the right people too, okay? So this is what I'm asking of you. Get organized, get a person, get to me on that people, and then we can make a difference with meeting with these guys, okay? So, because I watched Flashpoint on Sunday, and this is when it came to me. I'm watching Debbie Dingell talking to the mayor of Dearborn, and they're talking together, and they're making plans, and they're doing things. And I thought, well, we got to do that too. That's what you need. So this is my advice to you guys, okay? Resolutions are important. We're still talking about that. We're still making decisions on that. But this is something that will be the most impact, at least in the short term, and definitely in the long term too, okay? So that's what I'm asking for you. And don't think I'm ignoring you for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to take my vacation after I go to a funeral, but I'm going to take my vacation. But this is where you can make a difference, okay? So there's that. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I have to go to the bathroom now.
Anyone else? Council? Any?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Radke.
A couple things. Briefly, I was looking at what was going on at the property right next to Baumgartner Park that the council had previously looked into having a PUD on. It sounds like the developer is coming back asking for both the plaza and self-storage. So through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, I'm sorry that Dr. Parcell left. Is that the current plan for that site?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Radke, as I understand it from Dr. Parcell, the applicant is proceeding with the commercial part of the project, which he has, which is zone commercial. So by right, he can proceed with that part of the project.
And I guess self-storage is allowed by right in commercial districts across the city?
In that particular commercial zoning district, it is. So yes, he can proceed. He'll have to submit site plans. He'll have to, go through the administrative process that's required, but he's able to put any commercial use that's allowed in that commercial zoning district by right.
That's very depressing to me. I'm still very regretful that the project that was first presented to us did not go through. It's my belief that if he does do a commercial plaza, it will draw more traffic than what was already proposed. More than that, because the parcel has a node overlay on top of it for mixed use, we've already passed a moratorium on car washes and drive-throughs in mixed-use zones. It's probably too late for this parcel, but I think we really should ponder putting a moratorium in place while we rewrite our zoning ordinance for self-storage facilities. Because there's nothing I can think of that is more of a car-based use than a self-storage facility. It adds no street life to the area. It employs very few people, and it is a large, continuous use in what should be a mixed-use corridor. I can't think of anything else that will essentially kill the corridor than self-storage facilities. So I would urge my colleagues to consider it. I'm not going to ask for it tonight because I just brought it up. But let's consider putting a moratorium on place there while we rewrite our zoning ordinance, because I think that that would be a terrible misuse of that property and would essentially kill any chance of mixed use in that entire area. I can't think of a more horrible building next to a park than a giant self-storage facility. To the people who came here today, I appreciate your comments. The one point I will make is the things that you're saying about me have been taken extremely out of context. The only thing I've ever said that is dumb is the idea that somehow not voting for the Democratic Party and Joe Biden will help you achieve your goals. That is the only thing I've ever said that is dumb, because I really do appreciate your viewpoint. I can't solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I wish I could. And if you go through my tweets, and I'm sure you guys are, God bless, I tweet a lot, so there's a lot to read there, you'll see I've never made a value judgment about the conflict. Because you know what? I don't live there. It has to be horrible for the people that do. And it rends my heart, the idea that people have to live this way. At the same time, because I don't live there, I honestly don't believe this is the forum to make a statement about that. And I appreciate your viewpoint. And if my colleagues think it is, we're going to discuss it. We are talking about a possibility of resolution. But I had the opportunity to visit Palestine and Israel and Jordan in, it had to be 2011. And across the region, I have never seen a place that was more welcoming. All three countries, wherever we went, was the most welcoming place. And I think Palestine is a country, and it should be its own country. We were welcomed as friends. We were given tea. We went through the desert. I swam in the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. And it is a beautiful country, and I can see why people are so attached to it across the board. But, it's such a struggle right now with what's going on there. And I support our government. And I think that the idea that we're going to break this down into a red versus black conflict is just so depressing to me. It's right or wrong, good. At the end of the day, I think our government is working the hardest they can to establish a Palestinian state while also trying to rein in our ally. That's what I think is happening. That's what I think President Joe Biden is doing. He is trying to navigate this from a place of friendship. Because if you turn your backs on your friends, they don't listen to you. And if you chastise your friends from the mountaintop, they don't listen to you. When you talk to your friends, if they have done anything wrong, you usually do it in private. You do it in private because you don't want to either embarrass your friend, and you want them to take your word sincerely. And sometimes I feel like the number one problem that we're having right now is this has become a lot of grandstanding, a lot of this or that, and it's so depressing to me. I've studied a lot, and I studied history, and sadly, the loudest voices often get the most press, right? But it's the people who come here, who go there, who want peace. And I think that's what we all want. We want peace. I know I want peace because it's the saddest thing I think about, that the world's in war. I want peace in Ukraine. I want peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So you can take my comments out of context if you like, and God bless you. You can do that. But the only thing I've ever said that is dumb is the idea that an administration that proposed a Muslim ban would somehow help you achieve your goals better. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? Mrs. Zarko.
Just briefly, through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, is yesterday when we talked about bringing the congressional leaders, together to meet with some of our residents that have been coming to our meetings, I wonder if we could actually facilitate that. In other words, we can contact those leaders and the meeting could take place here in Sterling Heights and see what we can do. Because I'm not, the definition of a resolution is a letter of good intent. It actually means almost nothing, and that's what I'm afraid of, is it's doing like a bypass. We might, say, oh, we just did a resolution, but I'd rather see action than the resolution. And I think by bringing our congressional leaders here so that you can talk to them would make a bigger impact than our resolution. So I'm hoping that you're open to that, and then you can get several people together to be your representatives and look for your leadership in your community to see who would want to do it, and look for different people. Somebody mentioned that they are in nursing or in business, and bring those people forward so that you're not saying the same thing and you're coming from a different outlook. So if we could facilitate that, I would appreciate that, Mr. Vanderpool. So through the chair, can we do this?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Zarko, we'd be happy to take a look at that, and if it's a will of the council to bring our congressional group together, our senators, their staffs, and talk about this in a organized setting, sort of a town hall, if you will, at Velocity or the community center, we'd be happy to work on that and report back to council and establish a date.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zarko.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Just very briefly, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. I think that's an amazing idea. I don't want anyone in the room to think that we are against anyone. We're not. We're for everyone. And it's no secret that I work in the Warren Consolidated School District and at the Career Prep Center. So I mostly see juniors and seniors. And it warms my heart to see the love and diversity between all the kids. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Everybody works together. Everyone gets along. Everyone cares for each other. That's what makes our community great. So if there's something we can help facilitate, I'm all for it. We can't solve the world problems from here. I don't think you're expecting us to. But if we can do something that gets a train rolling, I'm all for it. So you know what, I just ask everyone, you have all been very respectful. Everyone needs to stay respectful. This needs to be a calm conversation, and I appreciate you all coming out. Thank you. I have nothing further, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. I too will just try to be very brief. I don't usually succeed at that, but thank you guys all for coming out and talking and giving your perspective. One of the things that I heard from a few different speakers was about the diversity of this community and the spirit of this community, and the idea that, if we don't do this, we're on the wrong side of history. And so you want the city council to take this action so that you can be proud of your city and say that we did this. And I'm not going to criticize you. I'm not going to say, hey, you're out of line for saying that. You're not. I've been in your position before. I've advocated for positions amongst my colleagues here that I feel very strongly about. And sometimes I don't get the vote to go my way, right? But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that it's difficult when you're in the leadership position that we are in. And we represent a very diverse group of residents. We represent a very ethnically diverse, culturally diverse, religiously diverse,
Politically diverse?
Again, no, it's getting less, so it's getting less and less so. But yeah, politically diverse, people of different ages, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and so this is a lightning rod issue. It just certainly is. And you can't separate, to me, you can't separate a call for a ceasefire from 70, 80 years of conflict over there. You can't separate a ceasefire from what Israel has done. You can't separate a ceasefire from what Hamas has done. If we have a ceasefire, it will be interpreted different ways by different people, the same words. And that's obvious. That's happened throughout all of history. In the Muslim religion, you have the same words interpreted completely differently. You have the same events interpreted completely differently. In the Christian religion, in the Jewish religion, you have the same texts. They're interpreted differently by everybody who reads them. Okay? And so, as some of my colleagues have said, look, we are happy to facilitate a conversation to try to bring the community together and heal it and show that we are concerned about what's going on and use our voices, use our positions to try to help it. But it doesn't necessarily help when people come up and say, we demand you to do this, and if you don't do this, you are on the wrong side of history. You are, nobody has come and said you're a bigot or whatever, but it's bigger than, as some of the people have said, it's bigger than a ceasefire resolution. And Henry's words have been repeated a couple times tonight, and I think probably not very fairly. I don't think Henry was saying, well, I can pass a ceasefire resolution so I can go to sleep at night. I think he was saying, like, that's not going to necessarily make me sleep well at night. I shouldn't pat myself on the back. I did it. I wrote, we condemn taking hostages, we condemn genocide, we condemn killing children, we condemn, are we going to pat ourselves on the back for that? I don't think so. Because I don't see that necessarily bringing the community together. I think there would be plenty of people who will say, well, God, why did they do that? What about what happened on October 7th? What about what's happening? What about all these other issues? So if we want to have a conversation that brings about an actual solution, we can talk about that. That is hard. That is the work of serious people that takes place in serious settings, and it takes place over your entire life. It doesn't get passed with a resolution at this council table on February 20th or March 6th or March 20th or any other day. It's work that you're required to do seriously for your entire life. Okay? And so if we want to commit to that, we can commit to that. Okay? I can commit to that right now. As long as I'm in this seat and as long as I'm in a position that I have some ability to influence people, I'll use my voice and my position to try to influence people for good and not bad. Okay? But I don't want to give the impression that if we don't meet the demand that's been put in front of us, that we're somehow not serious about the suffering going on across the world. So there's other ways that we can reach consensus and use our voices, use our positions, use our humanity to spread good. I think we should all commit to that. I think most of us are all feel that way. So, I think that's all I got. We are going to go into closed session. I don't think we're going to come back. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Ms. Riska?
Mr. Yanez?
Yes.
Ms. Zerko?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Radke?
Yes.
Yes.
Bresky?
Yes.
Yes. All right, motion carries 7-0. We'll adjourn into closed session. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate you being here, especially those of you who drove from long distance. And we are adjourning into closed session.